tell me this. If you were to give advice, and I know that you already give advice to new comedians because you stand out like sore thumb in the way that you develop your material, how fast you're able to get it out, how fast it's able to get the kind of laughs that you want. What are some of the things that you would tell new comedians that would help them along?
Well, first of all, you're right. I very rarely give unsolicited advice just because I don't want to be like one of those guys, but it's like a lot of people do ask me because, especially here in New York when you're still doing open mics, when you've been doing it as long as I have, which is just the reality in this city, you still have to do it and you still have to prepare. And, you have a lot of newer comics and stuff that see like how I work and see how I progress. And so they do kind of ask me a lot for advice. And I think the biggest thing is, and this kind of ties in with your time frame of like the 5 to 8 year, or some people even say it takes 10 years or longer, to find your voice and stuff. So, and I think that really you have to define what finding your voice is. And I think that that's just coming up with a style that's naturally, how are you funny naturally? How do you say things? What kind of emotions and what kind of energy and what kind of looks and pauses and all those things, like I've said, we've already talked about, make you different and make you funny in a natural way. And I think, so I try to tell people, get off the paper, rehearse just, talking and, even put your mind, even visualize and put yourself back into a place in the past where you've been funny in front of your friends and family. Like literally take your mind back to those places. This is what I do. I take my mind back to where I'm sitting around the table with my family and I'm cracking them up. And I think, what is it in those moments? What is it, that I'm doing naturally that's making them laugh? Because I'm certainly not thinking about setup punchline when I'm sitting around the table with, cracking my sisters up. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
So I'm trying to give them that advice that it's, get off the paper, get to your natural funniness as quick as possible, because that will be your voice. If you find that, and I think that's what you need when you talk about, like, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of stuff in your course and your process that teaches you how to develop, you develop the material quicker. Don't get me wrong. That's a big part of it. But I think most of the time frame that people talk about that takes so long is stopping with the jokey jokes and finding your voice and finding the way you're, so I think if you can cut down that curve, that's huge. And when I see somebody that's natural, when I see somebody, like I've seen comedians that have been naturally funny right out of the gate, and then you know what they do? As they start learning more, they start thinking they need to change and start getting more complex and start writing, and that's what I fell into. And then you end up getting further away from your natural voice, and then you have to find your way back. And that's what takes so long. You're literally going through years and years just to get back to being yourself. And
well, I can't tell you the number of comedians that I have talked to over the years who started out being themselves, doing fairly well, and then they jump into this, well, I need to figure out how to write jokes. And the second that happens, dude, they just get slammed. They just get slammed.
I'm telling you, Steve, that's exactly what happened to me. That whole process that I described in my beginning where I it may not have been the best sets in the beginning, relative to where I'm at now, but it was my reliance on just my natural ability before I knew how to really write jokes. And don't get me wrong, you've got to be, like you said, you've got to be able to structure stuff properly for your voice. But I had that kind of natural ability, and I got away from that. Exactly like what you said. You start thinking you need to know more, and you start reading these books, and it just takes you on this, and then you have to find your way back. And so when I see someone that has that natural voice right off the bat, I'm like, just do more of that and tap into that. The quicker you can get to that place, that's really where you'll cut off years.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I tell people try everybody else's stuff because they're so stuck in this whole I can learn how to write down my stuff. Try everybody else's stuff. And if you've got comedy talent and you get tired of sucking, then come back and take a look at what I've got. Because I'm results-oriented, man. It's all about results. I don't really care about anything else. I want comedians to succeed. It's important to me. Beyond just having a product to sell. You know, that's one thing. But I want comedians to succeed, dude. I want them to experience that laughter and experience that buzz that you get from knowing what you're doing on stage for real, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and you know how painful it could be to be stuck in that rut where you're not improving and you're wondering, you know, what am I doing? You know, and one of the most painful things about that is just what you said. When you don't know how to improve, or you don't know how to evaluate, or you don't know the certain things, and we've talked about it, so very few things that you really have to worry about, but they're the few very impactful things. When you know that, you can start improving very quickly. And, you know, some of the biggest compliments I get, other than, like, it was funny how you were saying about, you know, oh, people say great set, or, you know, you killed it. I mean, and that's one thing. I mean, but, you know, that doesn't really mean a lot. My best compliments is when I hear, man, I love to hear you work, or I love to see how you're going to bring something new to that bit, or comments like, wow, you're just so natural and so conversational, and it just seems like it's coming off the top. You know, those are the comments I like, because those are the things that I'm focusing on and working on, and that's what a lot of your course teaches you. And when you run things through the Evaluator Pro, you know, so I take those as compliments because those are the things that I am consciously working on. You know what I mean? And those are the things that your course has taught me to do very, very quickly, and really just brought me to places I never thought. Like I said, just even the ability to write on stage. And when I say that, again, I don't mean, like we talked about, not being unprepared or winging it, but what I'm saying is, you know, you know a bit so well that you could just add another line, or you think of something and you just throw it in there, and you're like, wow, you know, now I have another 2 tags to that bit that work. And you know, just having that kind of comfortability on stage is just unbelievable to me.